TG Geeks, episode 233, August 5th, 2019. By the power of Grayskull, I shall avenge thee. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from one of Dante's levels of hell. It's so hot!
Yes. Did you like that
that was clever.
Tag?
That was really good. I don't know. For a moment there, I was expecting something very Alan Rickman.
Yeah, here we go.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the Two Gay Geeks are discussing this.
Wow, that just stepped all over everything, didn't it?
And a little button happy there, aren't you?
Yeah, a little button happy. This time we have...
Ooh, this is a good one.
Oh, this one's really good. He is one of the people that it was instrumental in creating the character He-Man, Mr. Mark Ellis. He actually lives here in the Phoenix Valley.
He's a friend.
Yes.
And we never knew until someone pointed it out to us and said, and I'm like, oh, we need to talk to him.
Yeah. Of course, we have our birthday shout-outs, our featured podcast of the week, everybody's favorite feedback, and we're going to talk about a couple of things in the second segment that are kind of interesting.
Surprise!
Yes.
Well, sort of.
Not surprise. Well, surprise, but not surprise.
Maybe.
But surprise.
Maybe.
And then our weekly recap.
Weekly recap.
Yes. And our regular shout out. So let's just get this show a-rolling. And this time on the show, we have a real treat for you. We have Mr. Mark Ellis. He was the director of marketing for Mattel and was instrumental in the creation of He-Man. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
So He-Man is as popular as it ever, well, maybe not as popular as it ever was, but it's certainly still very popular, and it was extremely popular in the 80s. And there's a lot of people that want to know how He-Man came about. You know, I mean, there's many things that are out there and apocryphal knowledge and whatnot. So I'm kind of interested in getting it directly from the horse's mouth. So tell us...
No, nothing personal.
Right. We're not calling you a horse, but, you know.
Put the feedback on.
Yeah, there we go. So tell us, who is Mark Ellis, and how did you get into that whole thing with Mattel, and what? Tell us that your rise to
greatness.
Greatness, exactly.
Well, a lot of people will debate the greatness part, but my professional career started at General Mills, where I was in the marketing department, and I was in the marketing department at General Mills and developed several cake mixes for General Mills, and that gave me the experience of developing products that went on for national distribution. And when Mattel decided they wanted to develop a male action figure line that wasn't dependent upon a license from a cartoon or a comic book or a movie, they looked to somebody who had already developed products nationally as a regular packaged goods marketing person or company would do. And that was me.
So they poached you away from General Mills.
Basically. And let me just go back for a second. In the toy industry, every industry has its own ins and outs. And generally in Mattel and Ideal and all the other major companies, the process of developing new products, they would have a new product development people who would come up with a large doll or a small doll or an activity and say, here it is. And that's how the line was filled in. But for the development of this particular male action figure line, a more studied approach was desired, and that's where I came in. So I did the same research that I would do in the development of a cake mix, in the making of He-Man. So I did a needs research, themes research, a research on how kids used or played and what problems they had with the toys they had, as well as a research on what should be the form and nature and makeup of a line. And I will probably say that was the first time that's ever been done in a major toy line before.
Yeah. Well, I would also say it's highly successful too. My goodness, I mean, He-Man did become this monster of a franchise. So I think there's definitely some lessons to be learned by how you approached this.
Well, and that usually isn't done because usually they don't have people in the toy industry that have MBAs or who have developed products at other packaged goods marketing companies. So it's part of the approach of toy companies. So we went through and did theme research, and it turned out that what we call sort of a Frank Rosetta-styled barbarian was the theme that came the forefront. And we were very fortunate. They had a lot of great artists at Mattel, and people like Mark Taylor was able to take that line and bring it to life with characters like Skeletor and all the other characters that we developed. But I think that the key to the whole success of the product was the fact that I knew that to be successful, we needed about 8 characters, could be 7, but 8 was a good number, that we needed 2 vehicles so that they had something to play with and go around. And we also needed a backdrop, a diorama for the commercials, and that turned out to be the playset Castle Grayskull.
Wow!
So
this wasn't just a singular thing; it was a whole raft of products.
This sounds like world building. To be honest, I mean, much like what any writer would do. This is a form of world building. The only difference is that now you're doing it in the form of merchandising before you actually have any kind of story or previously established characters to work with. So, yeah. but it's the same principle.
We didn't start with a story. We started with for example, how do kids play? And at that time, it's different now. Boys started playing with male action figures when they were about 5 years old.
Right.
And if you watch a kid who's 5 play with a male action figure, he grabs it and he's voicing that character with his own voice, and he's grabbing it and talking to another figure, and he's saying things like, "You do this because I tell you to do it."
Right.
In other words, the exact words their mother is using to tell them what to do. They, in fact, want to have the power to you do this because I tell you to do it.
Right.
And so if you think about what's going on when you're 5 years old, the whole socialization process is taking place. Mother's telling you what to eat, how to eat, use your fork, use your knife, do this in manners, and all of a sudden you've got kids coming over and playing with your toys, and you go, wait a minute, what's this? And then eventually you go on to school, and some strange lady's telling you what to do, and a whole bunch of kids are playing with your toys.
Right.
Wow, there's a lot of psychology here going on.
At that time, a kid basically is saying, I want the power.
Right.
I want to be in charge. And I don't know this for a fact, I've never done any research on this, but I would think that's exactly why kids gravitate towards a gun. So if you have a gun, you're in charge.
Right.
Because people are scared of you. And that's what happened to my son. He made guns out of Legos.
Right.
And my wife almost killed me because I wasn't supposed to bring guns into the house. And I said, well, I didn't. He just did it on his own. But basically, they want the power. So if you think about what we did with He-Man, we made him the most powerful man in the universe.
Right.
And the phrase is, I have the power.
Right.
We're all the way through it. So basically, we picked up on that process and, if you would, used it to make the figures more special to the kids.
Yeah. It's interesting that it's a kind of a theme of cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians, good, bad, etc.
Well, most things are good, bad. But
right.
If you're dealing with 5-year-olds, one of the things that we tried to do is to make sure that we knew who was good and who was bad.
Right.
In other words, it wasn't like some of the TV shows where
right.
people are half good or whatever.
Right.
All the good guys had light colors, all the bad guys had dark colors, and I had an organizational chart printed up on my wall in terms of who reports to who and what powers they had.
Interesting.
So it was clear who was good and who was bad and how that worked.
Was there when you were developing these various toy characters? Now, obviously, this is before the cartoon even came into existence. Were you already designing character types at that point? I mean, as we know, or as you said, He-Man, he's sort of at the top of the good pyramid, and then you have these people that sort of work with him, and each of those characters are quite unique in who they are. How much development went into establishing what those characters were in terms of personality type or anything along those lines, or did that not happen until the cartoon itself?
Well, what happened there, that was a significant personal investment on my part with our brand group at a place called Tequila Willie's, which had happy hour at 6 o'clock. And
I see.
Substantial numbers of the figures came to being, over a happy hour and were written on the napkins at Tequila Willie's. So,
does Tequila Willie still exist?
Some of the characters. If you think about some of the characters, they're the kinds of characters that if you had a picture of margaritas, that you would think would be pretty funny, like Evil Lynn, Evelyn, and Manny faces. Things that you think after you've had a margarita or two are pretty funny. So that's how those characters came into being.
And Skeletor came about from shots of tequila, huh?
Oh, but
Skeletor was really Mark Taylor's, who was the primary artist on the whole line, and he had actually developed lines of characters even in high school. Oh. And so a lot of these characters he had done a long time ago. Oh. It just so happens that we said we need these, and he went. I've got some great ideas here. So
cool.
Here they all are. And that was very useful.
Well, that helped a lot, I'm sure.
Yep.
So how long had this development gone on before you actually went into manufacturing and started and the toys began to be sold to children?
Well, it took about a little over a year to develop the line. And if nothing else, it takes about 9 months to do the tooling. So you go back, and so it's a little bit earlier than that in terms of how it gets produced. But what happened was that we had the line, the 8 characters, and the 2 vehicles, and the playset done, and started our what they call pre-toy fair presentations to our major customers. And the first customer was Child World, which at that time was a major competitor to Toys R Us and one of our largest customers. And so I made the presentation to Child World, and at the end he said, well, what are you doing? What promotions are you doing that is not your advertising, but is a tie-in with another company? Because I know how toy companies work. If the product doesn't sell, they just cut the advertising, and I'm stuck with the inventory. So tell me a promotion or an advertisement that you're doing with another company that you can't back off of. And I had none. But this was my job. That's why I've been hired, to make sure this was a success. And I said, well, did I tell you about the comic book?
Oh, dear.
Having a comic book series.
Thinking on your feet.
You know? Well, it was my job, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So the people in my brand group were in the back. I could actually see them. Their mouths dropped open, going, what's he talking about, right? And I said, oh, yes, there's going to be a comic book series on this line. So that next week, I flew to New York and had meetings with DC and with Marvel. And I stuck to DC first, and they're the ones who did the original small series, mini-series for full-size comic books. And that's how that came about. So the week, 2 weeks later, I had a presentation to Toys R Us, which was our biggest customer. So that one had to go well. And so I had them make up a cover art for the comic book. And at the end of my presentation, my piece de resistance of my presentation was, and here's the comic book. Ta-da! And the buyer for Toys R Us said, didn't you say kids start to buy these at 5 years old? And I said, yes. He said, well, they can't read at 5, so what's a comic book going to do for you? I'm going, oops.
Oops. It's going to have pretty pictures.
I said, well, they'll know about it because of the TV show.
Oh, dear Lord.
Oh, my God.
This thing just spun out of control all of a sudden.
Double down, you know. If you're going to go down the flames, might as well,
take everybody with you.
Right. So after that, I went and set up a meeting with Bill Hanna and Hanna-Barbera.
It's his birthday this week.
Office with these spotlights on his Emmys and Oscars that he's won, and et cetera. And I feel like I was going in the presence of God, And so I talked to him about doing a animated special on He-Man. And he said, well, let's talk to our business people. And so got in the conference room, and the first question they asked me was, well, how many cut lines on your character?
Cut lines?
And, yeah, so here's the problem. I can the best of them, but if you really have no idea what the question means, it's very hard. Very hard. So I think I said something like, well, the usual. I didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah, what does it mean?
So then the business manager, Margaret Loesch, I remember her, she said, listen, and she didn't say the words that I was expecting her to call me, but listen, idiot. We animate Casper, and Casper's, when he moves and the cells, all there is a little circle in his body, and it's very cheap to animate that. But if you're having this character that has six-pack abs, if you want to have 8 cut lines on his abs for, making him muscular, that's going to make the cartoon twice as expensive as a Casper cartoon versus, say, you had 4 cut lines.
Right. Okay.
I'm going, okay, got it.
That makes sense.
But anyway, so obviously that meeting didn't go well because I basically got called an idiot and was sort of called out. And so I sort of walked out, my tail beneath, just walked out and set up a meeting with Lou Scheimer, who was the president of a company called Filmation. So went to go see Lou, and sitting in his office, and I'm telling him about these characters that I want this animated special. And I waited maybe 5 minutes into the conversation before I said, and I want 4 cut lines on the character, because I wanted him to know that I was an expert in animation, and I really knew what I was talking about. And Lou was the one that had the idea that rather than do 2 1-hour specials, to do a syndicated cartoon show, because we could get clearances, because Mattel purchased so much money in spot television. We could go in and sell a syndicated show with some advertising for other products, and that combination made the clearances for the He-Man show really great. I mean, much greater than it otherwise would have been.
And I would also imagine,
cartoon show.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that because. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what happened was that Lou did a great job in the cartoon, and it became the #1 syndicated cartoon show for I don't know how many years. And what happened, a lot of the story, we had developed or had hired people to develop the mini comics that were in with the characters. But Lou had to, because he was doing a TV show, the requirements for telling a story on TV are different. And whereas we were all into power and, by the power of Grayskull and good versus evil, Lou had to have things like comic relief into his show and stuff like that. So he ended up having to develop new characters that, at the end of the day, we wouldn't, as being pure to the original concept, didn't like, but it was needed to make the cartoon work. And so there's characters like Orko and various other ways, He-Man's alter ego, that they were able to do because of story reasons and not because of what we had suggested to them to do.
Well, not to mention the fact that Skeletor at times became quite the comedic villain at times. I mean, I remember watching that in the 80s, and he would toss out some lines that absolutely had me in stitches. So I can see where that all came about.
Well, I guess they didn't want to have Skeletor be too evil, so they switched it around. Although I will tell you that on the figures, Skeletor always outsold He-Man.
Really?
Yeah, good is always better than evil. I don't know what that means in real life, but
yeah,
interesting.
So how long did first, how long did the action figure really have its heyday, and then also the tie-in with the comic book, and then we should probably wind up after that.
I mean, like, how long did that period last?
Yeah.
Well, the characters went along very strongly for at least 4 good years, and then we were a victim of our own success and didn't sell the products in the appropriate mixture, because you had to have what you would do is to understand that somebody would get into the series by buying a He-Man or a Skeletor or both, and then they would buy the secondary and then the tertiary figures after that. And what happened was that they, by virtue of how the products were manufactured, they had larger capacity on the tertiary figures. And so as a result, they had a lot of they could make a lot more of those. And so in order to make the profit one year, they ended up flooding the markets with the tertiary figures. And I think that's what sort of spelled the end of the characters in terms of sales at retail.
Yeah. Well,
the cartoon went off, continued for many, many years. And then, of course, there was a live-action film as well.
And also, He-Man did a spin-off with She-Ra as well.
Well, what happened was that I was very concerned that the women or girls wouldn't play with the He-Man characters. And because the traditional play of a doll is with putting the clothes off and on and combing the hair. And there wasn't any of that with He-Man. And so I didn't think that it would be very successful with girls. And we turned out that like 30% or 35% of all the purchases were for girls. And that just was astounding to us. Astounding.
Wow.
And as a result, with that kind of a demand, they decided, we decided to do a girls line featuring Tila, and they gave that to girls' toys because what had happened because of the success of He-Man. At that point, I also moved on to running Hot Wheels. Boys' toys were outselling girls' toys for the first time ever at Mattel, and a lot of the people who were involved with the girls' toys didn't like that, so they put Tila in the girls' toys area.
Wow, interesting.
Wow, there's so much ground that we could cover.
Wow,
and there's a lot more to discuss.
There's still more story here.
There's a lot more story.
but we are running out of time.
Yeah,
here.
We're against the wall here. But so let me ask this. If people want to learn more about He-Man, I mean, is there any kind of like documentary or some kind of special website or anything that people can go to learn more about He-Man and its history, how it all came about and its evolution?
Sure. The first one is recently, or a year, I don't know, almost 2 years ago, Netflix did a series of movies called The Toys That Made Us. And they cover all the major toys that were popular in the 80s. And the third episode of that series was on He-Man. And secondly, there is a website that's done by some people for a real long time called He-Man.org, which has a lot of information on that about He-Man.
Interesting. Well, very good.
This has been great, Mark. Thank you so much for talking to us.
I wish we had more time because there's so much more that I would love to talk to you about.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
This is Chuck Tomasi, author of Podcasting for Dummies and host of Technorama, the podcast for geeks. And you are listening to the Two Gay Geeks, because geek is better than cool.
That's what you call a podcast voice.
That's his podcast voice, yes. So, let's see. We got a few selected birthdays for August the 5th through August the 11th, 2019. What the heck is wrong with my little thing here?
The cat stepped on it.
The cat stepped on it, exactly. August the 5th, Neil Armstrong.
This man is something of a hero of mine, and yet he never sought celebrity. It wasn't. I mean, he was truly an idealist when it came to his job, his role as first man on the moon.
Yep. And I remember, oh my gosh.
I remember watching
fifth or sixth grade, I think there was something going on at the library in our hometown, and Bill Hensley's mother took us down to there to meet Neil Armstrong. I had a signed copy of him in his astronaut suit and everything, and there was just a handful of people in the room. I mean, it was maybe 50 people in the room.
And if that were today, no,
it was just
it'd be
incredible.
a mob.
It was
today,
incredible. Yeah. Also on August the 5th, James Gunn, Josie Tota, who actually announced last year in August that she was a transgender female, formerly known as JJ Tota. And also on August the 5th, John Huston, who directed The African Queen, among other great films. African Queen, I love that film. It's wonderful. And Abbé Pierre, who was the founder of the Emmaus movement to help the poor. And he died when he was 94. So
wow.
He really had a very long life and did a lot of good. And he started the Emmaus movement when he was a much younger man, obviously. Also on August the 5th, Selma Diamond. You know who Selma Diamond was?
I have no idea.
She was the bailiff.
She invented diamonds.
Yes, she did. She was the bailiff Selma Hackler on Night Court.
Oh, yes, I do know. Or I'm familiar with who Selma is. Yes, I loved her.
Yes. And Ambroise Thomas, who was the composer, he composed Mignon and Hamlet, those two operas are frequently performed today. And you can see those at the Met, among other places. Also on August 5th, Facebook friends Sarah Snow Scott and Bev Labonte, who was a former co-worker of mine. August the 6th, Andy Warhol.
The man who said, every person's famous for 15 minutes, but filmmaker, artist, and to this day, and I know this is probably going to make me sound like I'm just a complete degenerate, I desperately still want to see his Frankenstein in 3D movie.
Yeah. He made 60 films in 5 years.
Yeah, man was
crazy.
He was an artist, an artistic machine.
Yep. Also on August 6th, Lucille Ball, Michelle Yeoh, Ty Simpkins, who was in the Iron Man films, and as well as he had a little cameo in Endgame. Yep, at the very end. Also, Robert Mitchum. Oh my God, my introduction to Robert Mitchum, other than some other things on that you'd seen him in, but to really watch was Night of the Hunter, which was. Oh my God, what a creepy film. And he played a really creepy character. And he was also in Scrooge.
I loved him in Scrooge as the network executive.
Yes. Call the cops.
Yes. Dangle bits of string on the screen. Cats love it.
Yeah. Do you know how many cats there are in the world?
And how many watch television?
Yeah. Also on August the 6th, Alexander Fleming, who discovered, he was a sorcerer's, penicillin, sorry.
Wow.
Not Nicholas Flamel.
Not Nicholas
Alexander Fleming.
Whoa.
Discovered penicillin. There we go.
Was your Freudian slip really showing there?
It was.
Oh my
goodness.
goodness.
Could you tell? What color was it?
Purple?
Yeah. Also on August 6th, M. Night Shyamalan, who actually his last film was actually a really good film.
I enjoyed it. I did.
Yeah.
I thought it was decent.
Yeah. August the 7th, Charlize Theron, David Duchovny, Margarita Gertruda Zell.
I feel like I should know that name. Also
known as Mata Hari.
Ah.
Yes, and Carl Switzer, who was Alfalfa.
Okay.
From our gang way back when. But his photo also was the photo of Benny, the brother of the Haynes sisters.
Of the Haynes sisters, yes, in White Christmas.
It's just amazing. That photo shows up and it's like,
I know that face.
Really?
Freckle face Benny.
Yeah. And also on August 6th, last but not least, Billy Burke.
The Good Fairy in Wizard of Oz.
The Good Fairy. The Good Witch.
The Good Witch.
Yes. Her career
Glinda.
spanned from 1916 to 1960.
Wow.
She was, you look at her IMDb entry, and I mean, it's wow. It's just everything. But her claim to fame really is Glinda the Good Witch. August the 8th, Dustin Hoffman, Paul Dirac, who was a pioneer in quantum mechanics.
Oh.
He was apparently was a very strange individual. He was.
If you're studying quantum mechanics, you're automatically a strange individual.
He was English, and he was actually knighted, but refused it. It was really interesting. Also, August 8th, Michael Urie. Esther Williams, who everybody knows from her aquatic things, in movies, but she was actually an Olympic swimmer. She missed the 1940 Olympics because of World War II, and she joined a troupe that was a swimming troupe and swam next to Johnny Weissmuller, who was actually a gold medal winning Olympian before breaking into films. Well, before they both break into films. Yes. Anyway. Also, Roger Penrose, physicist and cosmologist, he actually suggested that there was a universe before the Big Bang in a paper that he wrote, or a book that he wrote, as a matter of fact. Dino De Laurentiis, Terry Nation,
Exterminate,
and good friend of ours, Kelly Parker. August the 9th, Eric Bana, P.L. Travers, It's a Jolly Holiday with Mary, and Michael Kors, and a friend of mine from, actually, we lived just down the street from each other and went to high school together, Joyce Evans Palmer. Happy birthday, Joyce. August the 10th, Brenton Thwaites, who was in a number of films, but he's also...
Well, first film I saw him in that I remember is The Giver, but right. I think most people might know him now in the DC Universe series as Dick Grayson in the TV series Titans.
Yes. And Jimmy Dean, who actually was in Diamonds Are Forever, and we would not have breakfast sausage without him.
That is right.
There would be no breakfast sausage without Jimmy Dean. Yeah. Also, Eddie Fisher.
The father of Carrie Fisher.
Yes, and he left Debbie Reynolds to marry Elizabeth Taylor, and later Connie Stevens.
I know.
Which Connie Stevens' birthday was actually this week, too. I didn't put her on the list, but her birthday was this week. And so it's interesting. And a friend of ours from Facebook, Matt Scott and Lee Whiteside. August 11th, Chris Hemsworth, Viola Davis, Steve Wozniak, who we wouldn't have a podcast without because we're using Max right now. Alex Haley of Roots fame. He discovered Roots.
Hebrology.
Yes. And the Emperor himself, Ian McDiarmid. And that's it for the birthdays. This time, that was a long birthday segment, wasn't it?
Technorama, the podcast for geeks, because geeks are better than cool. You don't hear someone say, "Get away from me, you cool person." Who's gonna have their 65-inch home theater system installed by the Cool Squad? Not me, that's for sure. How much cool cred do you have? Not enough to care about. Think you'll find any canned unicorn meat at thinkcool.com? It's just a part domain name. They don't even have roadkill in a paper cup. That's why you need to start listening to Technorama, because that's what geeks do. Go to chuckchat.com and listen to Technorama before you turn cool.
Go give a listen to our friends Chuck and Craig over at Technorama Podcast.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counselors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
got a little bit of feedback. I want to get there a little bit. Starting off, regarding Ben's breakdown, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, roars and finally has bite. That was my review of the movie. Got a comment from my longest friend, Corey Nelson. She says...
She's the longest friend?
Longest person I've been the longest friends with.
Friends, longest friend.
Whatever.
Longest time.
Longest time.
It's a long lost time.
Yeah, like this
time
feedback
tunnel.
segment. She says...
She's your time tunnel friend.
Right. No, she's not. She's my Doctor Who friend.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, she says, Ken Watanabe, I'm in. He's in the movie.
Really?
Yes. You watched it with me?
I'm just being a goofball.
Uh-huh. And then, this is regarding TG Geeks episode 227. We interviewed the Patrick Green and Ed Bott. They are the people behind an independent film called Escaping Freedom. And we got a comment from Escaping Freedom on Facebook. They say, a huge thank you to TG Squared Studios for inviting us to be part of their Pride Month celebration.
Yay!
We were happy to have you on the show. And now, this is an unusual one. This is not something that we actually ran on our website, but this is in regards to something that was run in a local gay publication here in Phoenix. The Two Gay Geeks meet the nerdy duo, us. And we got a few comments. First from Shelley Talsma Everson. She was the person who interviewed us. She simply says, thank you for your time.
Yep.
Got a comment from Dottie Crone. She says, very cool and very proud to know you two. And then finally, a comment from Katie Edwards, and he says, I love it.
Yeah, and that was in the Echo magazine. You can
Yes.
go to Echo magazine.
We'll have the link for that interview on our website and in the show notes for this episode, as with everything else. And then lastly, Ben's Breakdown, Thursday Midnight, is a brilliant and shocking chapter regarding vampires and humanity. This is a book review, and we got a comment from the author himself, Zachary Wheeler. And he quotes something that I wrote, where I said, Thursday Midnight is a dystopian masterpiece. And then he adds his own comment, well then, my day is officially peaked. Guess I'll go grab a beer, kick back, and bask in the awesomeness. My sincerest thanks to TG Squared Studios for their stellar and thoughtful review of Thursday Midnight, the long-awaited sequel to Transient. And I have to reiterate that as much as that ending disturbed me, I thought the book was just bloody amazing.
It was truly brilliant. It's completely different than his other writing.
Absolutely.
It's just like
it's not
opposite ends of the pole.
It is nothing like his multiverse, Max and the Multiverse series, and it doesn't. I mean, it barely resembles Transient, except for its characters.
Yeah.
But the writing style is totally different, and I loved it.
Yeah, and we did an interview with him about Thursday Midnight, too, and he said he had to stop writing everything else, and then it would...
And no multitasking on that book.
Exactly. No multiversing on that book.
No.
You can leave a comment on our Facebook page, like these people have, or on our website, tggeeks.com, or even on Twitter or Instagram. You can leave a comment. All of those different places. We will read it on air. And if you happen to be of that sort, you can call our listener feedback line and leave us a comment, and we will play that on air. You can call 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. And you can be a part of the madness that is tggeeks.com. Please play nice. Well, up in the next week or so, we've got a couple of interviews. We got one coming up for CocoCon, who we talk about virtually every week. And we're also going to talk to Miguel Rodriguez, who is the founder and programmer for Horrible Imaginings Film Festival on their 10th anniversary year.
Oh, I so wish we could go to that, but we have other obligations.
It's the same weekend as CocoCon, so we're going to run those. And then we got another interview that we have done, that a very interesting filmmaker. So those are coming up in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. Interesting stuff abounds.
A lot.
If you are in transition or have already transitioned and are in crisis, or you know of someone in crisis, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by specially trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. Or you can go to the translifeline.org for more information about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
We're running out of time on this episode.
I know. Well, got a couple of things we're going to hit on really fast. We've been following this latest season of Elementary.
Oh, my Lord.
Including
we
watching
followed
those...
it. Actually, we have been following it since its premiere. We got in on episode 2 or 3.
Actually, no. We joined in on season 3.
No.
Yeah, it was season 3 is when we started watching it. But then we found on one of the streaming services, they had the entire backlog, and we mainlined years 1 and 2.
I thought we did. Oh, well.
No, we didn't. No, but we have.
Shows you what I know.
We're totally current on the series. I mean, after we caught up from the earlier years, we've been just watching it religiously, including this latest season. And holy moly!
Oh my gosh, there is no other season coming. So
no,
they're trying to wind up and tie up.
Go out with a huge mother of a bang.
Yeah. Some interesting things happened this week.
Yeah, but obviously we can't really talk too much about it because we don't want to get into spoiler territory. But they're doing a really fantastic story arc this year that has taken some of the most bizarre left turns that we never saw coming.
Oh, absolutely. And it's great.
What's some of the things that you're really appreciating about this season?
Just the characters and the interaction and how they had kind of closed down production, but they brought everybody back. Mm-hmm. And the whole interaction with the different characters since the way the season ended up last year.
Oh, I know.
Is really unusual because they thought that was going to be it. And then
and CBS gives them a new order.
3 or 4 episodes from the end, where they hadn't filmed them yet. And they said, okay, they had said, we're going to give you, what was it, 10 episodes this season? And then they wound up giving them 15 or something weird like that. And we're going to renew it for another season. It's like they had to wind up this one arc and start a new one. And it was just, wow. But I think they've done a great job. And they've done a good job of winding these characters and their arcs down. Mm-hmm. This year. I can't wait for the next 2 episodes.
One nice little bit of gloat, and I won't give any details, but as we were watching this present season, we kept thinking, or we kept saying to ourselves, as we're prone to do when watching them, something has to happen, right? We need to see this happen in the series.
And then it happened.
It's
like, yay, we got something right, finally.
We called it. We said, in order for this series to really go right, they need to do this. And they did it in the most recent episode. We were so jazzed when we saw it. And now we're already running new theories as to where the series is going to go. But If you have not been following this, I mean, I know that some people are big fans of the Sherlock series with Benedict Cumberbatch, but you have got to be watching Elementary. I mean, the whole thing is available on the CBS streaming service. I'm sure there's other places where you can find it. Yep. Mainline this series. You will not regret it. It is so much fun.
They're great episodes, and they're just really good.
And I love the development. I mean, Joan Watson has become a really skilled detective in her own right.
Absolutely.
I love that none of these characters are static. They're evolving. They're moving. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, but lastly, before we go, hey, we've got a little bit of fun thing going on tonight. We're seeing Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah, so that could be interesting.
How much of Weird Al are you familiar with? That's a no.
Who's Weird Al?
Oh, stop it. leave this house.
My Bologna.
Yeah. My Bologna, okay.
Not a whole lot. I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of things that are going to be shown tonight, and it's like, oh, okay. But,
yeah, this should be interesting. I know that he's retired both Eat It and I'm Fat. He's retired the Michael Jackson material, but there's so much other material that I'm really curious as what he's going to do, especially since he's going to be backed by string orchestra this time.
Yeah.
This is going to be very odd. We'll definitely be talking about it in our next episode. But yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. I'm a big Weird Al fan. The man is utterly demented. He's completely insane. I mean, anybody who goes into the men's bathroom at the San Luis Obispo University just with an accordion so he can record My Bologna is, in my words, a genius.
Yeah. So that could be interesting. We'll talk about it next time. As everybody knows, we are huge supporters of independent creators, whether it's filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. We want to encourage you to talk about those writers, talk about those independent creators, buy their stuff, the artists, go to cons, book fairs, etc. Talk to people about their stuff, buy their stuff. Did I say buy their stuff?
You can never say it enough.
Never say enough. Have cash for them when you go to cons. And, because they don't need that extra credit card fees and whatnot. Have cash for them, buy their stuff. Please support independent creators. CocoCon returns for a second year Labor Day weekend at the Doubletree Hotel at Metro Center in Phoenix. Come on down and enjoy the folks and festivities. They've got Professor Sparks.
I'm so looking forward to that.
I am so jazzed about that. That is going to be so cool. He has got some of the sets from the 1931 Frankenstein. It's worth it to buy a membership just for that. We're going to be there doing a popular concast as well as socializing and just having a little staycation. Go to cococon.org. That's COKOCON.org. The Joshua Tree Feeding Program is actually a recipient of the charity for CocoCon this year. And the goal of Joshua Tree Feeding Program is to provide nourishment to low-income HIV-positive residents of Maricopa County. They provide balanced meals from their pantry, and it is a pantry where clients go and choose what they want, just like a grocery store. They lay it all out there, and they've got fresh foods and vegetables and breads and canned foods and just everything a grocery store would have. Please consider supporting Joshua Tree either through a single gift or a monthly recurring gift. They've got several ways that you can do that. You can go to their jtfp.org. You can give a single gift in any denomination you want. You can give a monthly recurring gift in any denomination you want. But they also have the Pearl program, which is $30 a month, and they're asking for people to sign up for that. And you get a little lapel pin that they have crafted themselves. So go to jtfp.org. And here's a recap of what we've run in the last week.
Starting with Sunday, July 28th, Dr. Zombie, Monster Family Physician number 59. That is from our good friend Tommy Cannon. On Monday the 29th, TG Geeks Webcast episode number 232. On Tuesday the 30th, Ben's Gay Breakdown. I'm Fine. It's a series that has cliche characters but also with a point to make. On Wednesday the 31st, 5 questions with John Zanetti. That is from Hamish Downey. Also, we have an article. Andrea von... How do you pronounce her last name? Skoyak joins TG Geeks as a contributor. On Thursday, we had a review from Andrea Richoff. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. Larger than life, twice as fun. Also have a press release from Oscar nominee Laura Linney to RuPaul Drag Race awardees. Beat the Heat with Reverie's August Originals on Pluto TV. On Friday, August 2nd, New Sushi number 73. Morsels of News from Japan and Beyond, also from Hamish Downey. And then on Saturday, the 3rd, Andy's Antics, a Misanthrope's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, and I'm done.
That is the first entry from Andrea Van Scoyoc for us, and it's a fun read. You should go check that out. Check all these things
We'll
out.
have the links for those in this show notes for our episode.
tggeeks.com, as well as entries on Facebook page.
Couple of shout-outs. First, to the Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News for republishing much of our content from time to time. It is put out by Brian Weber. You can find him on Twitter. He is the Human Arkle. Search Twitter by going to @Arkle, A-R-K-L-E. And speaking of Arkle, he is also on YouTube under Arkle Studios, all one word, and he has his Shameless Cash Grab Season 3. Also, we need to give a couple of shout-outs to some Facebook groups for allowing us to post our episodes and relevant articles on their page. First, to Gay Geeks After Hours. Big thanks to the moderators for literally saying share away, and their URL is facebook.com/group/Gay Geeks After Hours. And then to The Gay Geek for also allowing us to share our stuff on their page. And their URL is facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. And as always, our most heartfelt thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And lastly, we are now on Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, as well as where other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check us out on Krypton Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays. Listen to their other content. They are a 24-hour geeky internet radio station. Please rate us and review us on iTunes. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We're going to have several links on the page that you can click on and things that we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and others.
Cheers.